folks. In this episode, we're going to be talking about an improvisation by the Grateful Dead that the Deadheads nicknamed The Beautiful Jam, and the band later released it under that title on the So Many Roads box set. And I'm recording this in honor of the late Bob Weir, who recently passed. Bobby was quite an inventive guitarist and songwriter who spent the bulk of his career in a band with Jerry Garcia, a world historically generation-defining guitarist and songwriter. But Bobby, quite an inventive musician in his own right, and certainly learned a lot from Jerry in all of that time that they spent playing together. Part of the reason that I wanted to do a podcast episode about this jam is that while it is led by Jerry, and Jerry is the most prominent voice in it, Bobby is really the glue that holds it together. This jam was recorded on February 18th, 1971 in Port Chester, New York. And it happens in between Dark Star and the band's first ever performance of the song Wharf Rat. Grateful Dead jams could sometimes be written into their songs. Like there were songs where it was just planned, okay, now we're going to have a jam between, the last verse and the last chorus or whatever. Or sometimes there would be these suites of songs like Help on the Way, Slipknot, and Franklin's Tower, where there would just be these planned jam sections in between the sort of composed parts. Or there would be these pairs of songs like China Cat, Sunflower, and I Know You Rider, where it was just expected, okay, we come out the end of China Cat, Sunflower, and then there will be this jam that eventually resolves itself into I Know You Rider. But some of the most interesting jams are the ones that are not planned, where the band just goes into them without knowing where they're going to come out. And Dark Star is very often a launch pad for these kind of jams because Dark Star did have this written ending, but the band hardly ever played it. Usually they would just sort of go off into this improvisational exploration and nobody would have any idea where it would wind up, or when for that matter. So The Beautiful Jam is one of those. Both Dark Star and Wharf Rat are in A Mixolydian. So it's all just this continual harmonic feel. At the beginning of the jam, Bobby is playing this riff that's just kind of alternating A and A sus4 and A. And Jerry and Phil are improvising around it. And a few seconds in, Bobby plays this B minor chord at the same moment that Jerry is playing the note D. And so D is the third of B minor, and it fits together really well. And you can hear everybody being like, ooh, that was nice. And then Bobby returns back to this A sus4 groove, and everybody behind them is playing A Mixolydian. And then Bobby plays B minor again, and now he's established a pattern. So we've got 2 bars of B minor and 2 bars of A. And that's basically going to be the structure for the rest of the groove. What's nice about this is, okay, so B minor is the 2 chord in A major. And so the most banal thing in the world would be just alternating A and B minor. But we're not in A major, we're in A Mixolydian, which has got G natural rather than G sharp. And so now the 2 chord, instead of implying this sort of bright, creamy B Dorian, is implying a darker B natural minor. It's just a little bit more wistful. Very, very cool. the interesting thing about this jam is that it comes from a period where the band didn't really have a keyboard player. Pigpen was the band's keyboard player, but Pigpen was really unwell. He had liver problems that were keeping him from being able to consistently perform with the band. The band hadn't yet had Keith Godchaux join as a backup for Pigpen and eventually a replacement for Pigpen. So they did have various people sitting in with them. And at this show, Phil Lesh's friend Ned Lagan was sitting in, but he didn't really know the material that well, and he didn't play a whole lot, and he was mixed really quietly when he was playing. But his role in this jam is very important unintentionally, because he had a clavichord on stage, which is like a harpsichord except much quieter. In this era, there was just no easy way to amplify quiet acoustic instruments. They didn't have these piezo pickups that they have now. So there was just a microphone pointed at this clavichord, and it had to be cranked way the hell up in order to even pick it up. But what that meant was it also picked up all the other sounds on stage, like Jerry's guitar amp. And so there are various parts of the jam where this mic picks up Jerry's guitar and then just feeds back and feeds back and feeds back, and actually sounds quite lovely. Okay, so here's the first feedback from the clavichord mic, and you can hear Jerry just stop playing so we can let it ring. After a while, the B minor to A groove kind of peters out, and Bobby falls into this alternating A sus4 to A. Here's another feedback howl, and there's also a momentary tape dropout. At some point, Jerry plays a really loud and accented F natural, which is a wrong note in A mixolydian, right? It's supposed to be F sharp. And I don't know if he does this intentionally or not, but the cool thing is that Bobby is paying attention. And he hears that F natural and he's like, oh, let me play D minor to make sense out of that F natural. And so now there's this new groove that they've settled into. It's a bar and a half of A and a half a bar of D minor. And that's cool because now we're sort of going back and forth between A mixolydian and A minor implicitly. Jerry plays this really nice melody in here that reminds me a lot of a line that he plays in between Not Fade Away and Going Down the Road Feeling Bad from Skull and Roses. And Jerry hits a G sharp at some point. He likes to play that natural seventh against a mixolydian mode backing. It's a quote wrong note unquote, but if you do this kind of thing confidently, it can sound really good. He plays another outside note, and he plays like a very prominent B flat as a chromatic connector in between A and B, and B flat is like the darkest possible note you could play in A mixolydian, so that's pretty hip. And then as the groove peters out, Jerry cuts off a beat early and reasserts the slower Dark Star tempo, and everybody else kind of drifts for a second before they like reorient around him. And then the jam ends with Jerry playing the Dark Star pickup, and Dark Star resumes in earnest. So to be clear, this is improvised, but it's not chaos, right? Like you can hear everybody working together to keep all this coherent and making musical sense. It's not like free jazz. To me, it's more like in the moment, real time songwriting. Like there are some unstated rules to this improvisation, right? So the tempo stays steady, time signature stays steady. Every once in a while, somebody adds or drops a beat intentionally or not, but we're basically in 4/4. If somebody is playing chord changes, then they're going to repeat predictably for a while. Nobody's just throwing chords out at random. And you can hear Jerry kind of steering the ship most of the time. And, something unfortunate about the Grateful Dead is that as he got more kind of bored, depressed, and heroin addicted, he did less and less steering of the band. And yeah, you could really feel like the vacuum of his non leadership. But back in the early 70s, he is very much on top of his game and is very much leading, but also highly responsive to other people's actions. So, when Bobby throws that B minor chord in there, Jerry picks up on it and follows him. And like Phil picks up on it and follows him. And Bobby can do that because it's the kind of thing that they've done a bunch of times already, both in their jams and in their written material. And the rest of them are like, yes, B minor, we know what to do now. You could criticize the Grateful Dead for lack of harmonic imagination. Like their chord progressions do tend to be this kind of boilerplatey rock, country, folk type stuff. Sometimes they would get into jazzier territory, but usually not. But the virtue of that is, because there is this sort of finite variety of harmonic feels that they have implicitly agreed that they're going to use, it means that they can all fall in really quickly with each other. I like this jam because it is mostly a showcase for Jerry, but Bobby is the glue that holds it together. And in general, Bobby fulfilled this role in the Grateful Dead that is more like what the bass player would do in a normal band. So in a normal band, the bass player is just anchoring, right? Playing the roots of the chords, defining what the harmony is, playing repetitive patterns, kind of holding the groove together. But in the Grateful Dead, Phil Lesh is not doing those things. He's just improvising this elaborate counter melody. He's constantly playing weak beats. So he's kind of like another lead guitarist. And so Bobby is basically doing the job that the bass player normally would, like gluing the harmony together and playing repetitive grooves that everybody else can play off of. But Bobby is also not just chugging along, right? Like he also is playing these nice kind of counter melodies and fills, and is actually quite an interesting lead guitarist himself in those rare moments when he steps up to play more of a soloistic role. And yeah, I think it really sounds great. Rest in peace, Bob Weir. Thanks a lot for all the music. Thank you very much for listening.